Hello and good morning to everyone. My name is Reinielle and I'm a business diploma student. So I'm doing this video as part of our project under business law and thanks for being here today. So I'll be presenting about product liability and found a case that can be a really powerful example on how product liability laws protect consumers and hold businesses accountable for defective or harmful products. So I found this case as Harrison versus Excel Foods Incorporated. Now let's dive in. Okay, so first let's start with the basics. Product liability refers to the legal responsibility of manufacturers, distributors, and sellers to compensate consumers for injuries or damages caused by defective products. So this area of law ensures that consumer safety and holds businesses accountable. So it's governed by three main legal theories: negligence, breach of warranty, and strict liability. In simple terms, if a product harms someone, the company behind it can be held legally responsible. Now, let's talk about the types of product defects that can lead to liability claims. So there are three main categories. First is design defects. So these are flaws in the product's design that make it inherently unsafe. So an example would be a car with a tendency to roll over. In the Excel Foods case, this wasn't directly applicable. Next would be manufacturing defects. So these occurs during the production process. In the Excel Foods case, the meat was contaminated during processing, specifically by a bacteria called E. coli, so which is a clear example of a manufacturing defect. Next would be marketing defects or failure to warn. This happens when a product lacks proper instructions or warning. In this Excel Food case, the delayed recall process could be seen as a failure to warn consumers promptly. Another example would be something missing or non-compliant on the product's label. So those could be marketing defects. Looking at the legal theories applied in the product liability cases, we have three types. So first was negligence, and this was applicable to Excel Foods case. So they failed to ensure the safety of meat products by breaching their duty of care to consumers, or as defined, is failed to exercise reasonable care to the design, manufacture, or sale of the product. Another legal theory would be breach of warranty. So the product would not meet the terms of its warranty. Although not implied in this case explicitly, the contaminated meat could also imply a breach of the implied warranty of merchantability, which guarantees that the product is fit for consumption. And lastly would be strict liability. So this theory wasn't directly applicable here, but as we defined, the manufacturer is held liable for defects regardless of fault or negligence. Now let's dive into the Harrison against Excel Foods Incorporated case. This is a class action lawsuit filed by Matthew Harrison on behalf of consumers who were harmed by contaminated meat products distributed by Excel Foods Incorporated. They are a meat manufacturer or meat packer located in southern Alberta. So they were the ones involved in this lawsuit. The lawsuit alleges that Excel Foods was negligent in handling and distributing the meat, which led to bacterial contamination. So what basically happened is that Excel Foods Incorporated distributed contaminated meat, or as the layman's term, tainted meat, and consumers got sick. A class action lawsuit was filed. So the dispute is that Excel Foods argued that the evidence submitted by the plaintiff, Mr. Harrison, shouldn't be allowed because it was based on a hearsay. According to several news articles, this was one of the largest meat recall in Canadian history. Just to give you a brief background on what caused the contamination of the meat, here's a bite-sized food safety information. So E. coli is basically a bacteria that is found in intestines of people and animals and can be found on food or untreated water. This can cause severe illnesses such as diarrhea, stomach pain, vomiting, and may also lead to kidney failure or even death. Basically, food poisoning. Another term coined in this presentation would be product recall. So this occurs when a company removes a food product from the market because of the possibility that the food may be contaminated or mislabeled. Typically, the instructions will indicate that you need to do one of the following: either return product to the store or dispose the product properly. So in this case, the meat products were recalled on a wide state in the whole of Canada and US, which it were distributed. Moving back to the case, so there were several key issues in the case. First would be certification of class action. So the court had to decide whether the lawsuit could proceed as a class action, meaning it would be as a representative of all affected consumers. Next would be admissibility of evidence. Excel Foods argued that the affidavit, a sworn statement submitted by the plaintiff, was based on hearsay, second-hand information, or maybe gossip, and should not be allowed as evidence. They claim it was irrelevant and would unfairly prejudice their case. Another term would be hearsay evidence. So the plaintiff argued that the evidence was relevant and should be allowed, citing Rule 13.18, which permits hearsay evidence at certification stage of a class action. So why this case matters? It shows that the courts handle class action lawsuits and the kind of evidence needed at the certification stage. It highlights the importance of timely recalls and how delays can lead to additional liability for companies. So the court made several important decisions. The hearsay evidence was allowed. Associate Chief Justice Rook ruled that hearsay evidence could be used at the certification stage because this stage is procedural and does not involve a formal finding facts. The court only needs if there is some basis in fact to support the claims. Next would be relevance of delay. The courts allowed portions of the affidavit to be used as evidence, particularly regarding the issue of delay in the recall process. If proven at trial, the delay could affect the definition of the class who is included in the lawsuit. And leeway for the plaintiff. The court gave the plaintiff some flexibility to establish some basis in fact for the claims even if the evidence was not perfect. So basically, the court allowed evidence to be used at this early stage because it only needed to see if there was some basis for the claims. The outcome of the case was significant. So Excel Foods recalled more than 1.8 million kilograms of beef in Canada and the US back in 2012. And the plant in Brooks, Alta, that was the main source of the tainted meat, was sold to JBS Canada in 2013. So the court certified the class action, allowing the lawsuit to proceed on behalf of all affected consumers. So compensation has been set at $4 million, which has been compensating all affected parties, from the consumers who became ill after eating the tainted meat, provincial healthcare providers, and also consumers who were forced to dispose their meat. So this was a novel aspect of the case, as it recognized the harm it could extend beyond those who definitely consumed the contaminated products. To succeed in a product liability claim, the plaintiff must prove 4 key elements. So duty of care, where Excel Foods owed a duty to provide safe meat. This is basically applicable to all food manufacturing and supplier companies. And another one would be breach of duty. The company breached this duty by allowing contaminated meat to enter the market. Third would be causation. The contamination directly caused illnesses in consumers. And lastly, damages. Consumers suffered physical harm, economic losses, and emotional distress, basically food poisoning. There are 4 possible defense in product liability cases. So first would be assumption of risk, as consumers couldn't have known about the contamination. Product misuse, as the meat was consumed as intended. Statute of limitations, the case was filed within the legal time frame. And state-of-the-art defense. Excel Foods could argue that the contamination was unavoidable, but the court found their recall process inadequate. This case highlighted the significant impact of product liability on businesses. So, firstly, would be increased costs. XL Foods face legal fees, recall costs, and potential damages, providing compensation to all affected parties. Next would be improved safety standards. The case underscores the need for rigorous quality control and timely recalls. So, food safety comes a huge role for this factor. Lastly, would be reputation management. Negative publicity from the case harmed XL Foods brand, resulting to them selling the company to JBS Foods. In conclusion, the Harrison XL Foods case was a powerful example of how product liability laws protect consumers and hold businesses accountable. It highlights the importance of negligence, duty of care, and the impact of defective products on both consumers and businesses. So, our key takeaways would be understanding the types of defects and legal cures essential. Businesses must prioritize safety and food safety to avoid liability, and consumers should be aware of their rights and responsibilities. Here's our list of references from the textbook and also the Canly website, as well as some news articles and government websites. Thank you for listening. So, if any questions or comments, we can post it in the discussion board in our Blackboard. Thank you and have a wonderful day.